Adam Clark looked out the window of his small room at the three moons of Centauri Prime. The largest moon glowed blue against the dark sky. Adam had been at the Galactic Academy for almost a year now, but the sight still amazed him. Back on Earth, there was only one moon. Here, everything felt bigger, stranger, and more dangerous. Adam checked his study tablet. He had a xenobiology test tomorrow and he needed to get the highest score, not just because he wanted to, but because he had to prove humans belonged here. Adam was one of only 5 humans at the Academy among thousands of aliens from across the Vex Imperium. Humans are smart enough, Adam whispered to himself as he reviewed his notes. His mother always told him that humans had to work twice as hard to get half the respect from the older galactic species. His mother knew all about respect. General Elizabeth Clark commanded Earth's Special Operations Division, and even Alien. Diplomat spoke her name with care. Adam smiled, thinking about his mother. She was far away now, defending human borders at the edge of known space. They spoke once a week through secure channels. He hadn't told her about the problems at school. She had enough to worry about. A soft chime at his door pulled Adam from his thoughts. The door slid open to reveal Kira, a blue-skinned Navori girl from his linguistics class. "Adam, are you coming to study group?" she asked, her 4 eyes blinking nervously. "We're meeting in the East Library. I'll be there in 10 minutes, Adam said with a smile. Kira nodded and hurried away. Adam gathered his things. The Navori were considered a minor species like humans. The Vex Imperium had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years, and they divided all other species into categories. Humans had only reached the stars 300 years ago. To the Vex, that made them babies, barely worth notice. As Adam walked through the Academy halls, he saw the familiar symbols marking each section. The Academy was built like a giant wheel, with the Vex sections in the center and the minor species pushed to the outer edges. Adam had mapped every corner of the Academy in his first month. His mother had taught him to always know his surroundings. In Poimetoin, the library, Adam found Kira and 3 other students from minor species, a scaled Draxian, a furry Lochtar, and a crystalline Vril. They sat at a table far from the Vex students, who had taken all the best spots. "Did you hear?" the Draxian whispered as Adam sat down. "Prince Zorn is back from his trip to the Imperial capital." Adam tried not to show his reaction. Prince Zorn was the son of a high-ranking Vex noble. He and his friends made life difficult for the minor species students, especially humans. "Maybe he'll be too busy to bother us," Adam said, opening his books. They studied for an hour before trouble arrived. Prince Zorn and 5 other Vex students entered the library. Zorn was tall with gray skin and 4 arms. All Vex had 4 arms, which they claimed made them naturally superior for technical work. Zorn spotted their table and smiled in a way that showed too many teeth. "Look what we have here," Zorn said loudly. "The collection of primitives trying to learn real science." The library went quiet. No teacher was present. The Vex believed in letting students solve their own social dynamics. "We're just studying," Adam said calmly. "Same as you." Zorn laughed. "The human speaks. Tell me, ape, does your brain hurt when you try to understand concepts invented by real civilizations?" Adam stayed silent. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Choose your battles. Carefully." Zorn wasn't finished. He turned to Kira, who was shrinking in her seat. "And you, Blue Skin. Your people couldn't even invent space travel without Vex help. Why are you even here?" Adam saw tears forming in Kira's 4 eyes. That crossed a line. "At least her people discovered art and music on their own," Adam said, standing up. "The Vex stole most of their culture from the Andari, didn't they?" The room went completely silent. What Adam said was true. It was in the history books, but no one ever mentioned it to Vex faces. Zorn's gray skin darkened with anger. "You'll regret that, human." The Vex students left, but Adam knew this wasn't over. He turned to his study group. "We should go. Meet again tomorrow?" Everyone nodded, but their eyes showed fear, not just of Zorn, but now partly of Adam too. Humans had a reputation for being dangerously direct. 3 days later, Adam's xenobiology class gathered in Lab 7 for practical training. They would be studying the effects of various atmospheric conditions on different biological samples. The lab had 20 sealed chambers where students could manipulate gas mixtures safely. Adam noticed Prince Zorn whispering to his friends while looking in his direction. He tried to ignore them and focus on the assignment. The teacher, Professor Vax, assigned each student to a chamber. Adam got Chamber 12, right next to Kira in Chamber 11. As they entered their chambers and sealed the doors, Adam gave Kira an encouraging smile through the clear wall between them. Inside, Adam set up his samples and began adjusting the atmospheric controls. Everything seemed normal until he tried to increase the oxygen level. The controls didn't respond. Instead, a strange purple gas began filling the chamber. Adam immediately recognized it. Iridium gas, highly toxic to most organic life forms. He hit the emergency button, but nothing happened. Through the clear walls, he could see Prince Zorn watching with a small smile. Adam pounded on the door, but it was sealed for safety during experiments. The safety system that should have detected the dangerous gas wasn't working. Adam tried to hold his breath, but the gas seeped through his skin. His vision blurred, his throat burned. He saw Kira screaming and Professor Vax running toward the control panel. As darkness closed in, Adam thought of his mother, so far away, and how angry she would be that he hadn't been more careful. The last thing Adam saw was Prince Zorn's face, no longer smiling but suddenly afraid, as if realizing he had made a terrible mistake. 7 light-years away, on the edge of human space, General Elizabeth Clark was reviewing defense strategies when her private communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Centauri Prime. General Elizabeth Clark sat very still in her office on the military space station Aegis. The message about Adam's death played again on her screen. An accident, they said. A malfunction in the lab's safety systems. The Vex Imperium offered 10,000 credits as compensation for her loss. Elizabeth turned off the screen. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the station's engines. Her face showed nothing, but inside a storm was growing. Captain Maria Diaz, Elizabeth's second-in-command, stood at the door. She had worked with the general for 15 years and had never seen her like this. "General," Maria said softly, "I'm so sorry about Adam." Elizabeth looked up. Her eyes were dry, but something in them made Maria step back. "I'm taking leave," Elizabeth said. "Effective immediately." "Of course," Maria said. "How long will you be gone?" Elizabeth stood and collected her personal tablet. "As long as necessary." 24 hours later, Elizabeth's personal ship departed from Aegis. She filed a flight plan for Earth, but once her ship cleared the station's tracking range, she changed course. Her destination, Centauri Prime. 6 months passed. Acting Commander Samuel Wright sat at what had been General Clark's desk on Aegis Station. Reports filled his screen, each more troubling than the last. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. His aide, Lieutenant Paul Carter, looked up from his own work. "Sir?" "The Vex Imperium reports 3 more outposts went dark this week," Samuel said. "That makes 15 in 2 months. No distress calls, no signs of attack, just silence." "The Vex blame separatist groups," Paul said. "Maybe," Samuel replied. "But these outposts form a pattern." He pointed to a star map. "See? They create a path through Vex space, heading toward their central worlds." Paul frowned. "That's concerning." "There's more," Samuel said. He switched screens. 3 of our stealth ships are missing." "Missing?" Paul asked. "How can ships be missing? The records show they were reassigned 6 months ago, but when I check where they went, the files are empty. And it's not just ships." Samuel pulled up another report. "Weapons, supplies, and 20 of our best Special Forces soldiers. All reassigned, through high-level authorization codes." "Whose codes?" Paul asked, though he already suspected the answer. Samuel looked grim. "General Clark's." Paul went pale. "But she's on extended leave. The official story is she's recovering on Colony 9. I checked. No one has seen her on Colony 9 or anywhere else. Samuel closed the files. Something big is happening, and I think Elizabeth Clark is behind it. Far from Aegis Station, in a small bar on the edge of Vex space, a human woman sat alone in a dark corner. Her brown hair was now black. Her military uniform was gone, replaced by civilian clothes. But her eyes were unchanged, cold, calculating, focused. Elizabeth Clark watched as a nervous Vex male entered the bar. He had only 2 arms instead of 4, a birth defect that had kept him from advancing in Vex society. He spotted her and hurried over. "You are Nemesis?" he asked quietly. Elizabeth nodded once. "You have information for me?" The Vex slid a small data chip across the table. "Security codes for the Imperial Palace. Fresh ones. I work in communications there." "And the other thing I asked for?" Elizabeth said. The Vex hesitated, then produced a second chip. "Personnel files on Prince Zorn and his family. It was difficult to get these without being noticed." Elizabeth took both chips. "You've done well." She passed him a credit stick. "This will get you to the free colonies beyond Vex space. Start a new life there. They will know someone helped you," the Vex said, fear in his voice. "No," Elizabeth said. "They won't." After the Vex left, Elizabeth plugged the chips into her secure tablet. Prince Zorn's file appeared on screen. He had graduated from the academy 3 months ago and received a position on an Imperial warship. His father had arranged it, a stepping stone to greater things. Elizabeth studied Zorn's schedule, noting he would attend a celebration on the Vex homeworld next month. A rare gathering of many Imperial officials in one place. "Perfect," she whispered. Elizabeth left the bar and returned to her ship, hidden in an asteroid field nearby. Inside, the main cabin had been converted into a command center. Star maps covered the walls with red marks showing Vex outposts and bases. Many were already crossed out. A woman in black combat gear looked up as Elizabeth entered. "Did you get what we needed, General?" Elizabeth nodded to Sophia Allen, formerly her top intelligence officer, now part of her unsanctioned mission. "We did? Is everyone in position?" "Teams 1 and 2 are already on the Vex homeworld establishing cover identities," Sophia reported. "Team 3 disabled the communications relay at Sector 7 yesterday. The Vex still think it was a technical failure." "And our newest recruits?" Elizabeth asked. "The mercenaries are ready. They don't know the full plan, just their parts in it." Sophia hesitated. "Are you sure about bringing in outsiders? They might talk." "They're all people who hate the Vex Empire for their own reasons," Elizabeth said. "And they won't live long enough to talk." Sophia nodded, understanding what wasn't said. "When do we move on, Prince Zorn?" Elizabeth placed her tablet on the central table, displaying a detailed map of the Imperial Palace. "During the celebration, we'll have 7 minutes while their systems are down." 7 minutes to get in, grab the prince, and get out, Sophia frowned. "That's not much time." "It's enough," Elizabeth said. "I've been planning this for 6 months. Every detail is accounted for." She looked at the red marks on her maps, each representing a step toward her goal. "This is just the beginning." On the Vex homeworld, Prince Zorn stood on a balcony of the Imperial Palace. His new uniform gleamed in the light of 3 setting suns. Below, the capital city stretched to the horizon, the heart of an empire that ruled 1,000 worlds. "Enjoying the view?" a voice asked behind him. Zorn turned to see his father. "High Admiral Vec, approach." "Father," Zorn said with a bow. "The celebration tomorrow will be magnificent." "Indeed." Vec looked out over the city. "The Emperor himself will attend. It's a great honor for our family." "I won't disappoint you," Zorn promised. Vec placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "I know you won't. You've done well at your new posting. The incident at the academy is forgotten." Zorn tried not to show his relief. He rarely thought about the human boy anymore. It had been an unfortunate event, but necessary to maintain the proper order. Humans needed to know their place, Tomorrow begins your true rise in the Empire, Vex said proudly. Neither of them noticed the small drone hovering far below the balcony, recording their conversation. Nor did they see the human woman watching through the drone's camera feed, memorizing Zorn's face. Elizabeth Clark lowered her control pad and whispered to herself, "Enjoy your celebration, Prince Zorn. It will be your last." The grand hall of the Imperial Palace glittered with light. 1,000 crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling. The floor shone like a mirror. Vex nobles in their finest clothes moved through the room, their 4 arms adorned with jewels and ceremonial weapons. Prince Zorn stood tall near his father, greeting important guests. His new uniform marked him as an officer of the Imperial fleet. He felt proud. Soon the Emperor would arrive, and the celebration would truly begin. Nervous? His father asked quietly. "No, father," Zorn replied. "I am ready for this honor." "Hi," Admiral Vec nodded with approval. "Remember, the Emperor values confidence, show no weakness." In a small room 3 levels below the Grand Hall, Elizabeth Clark checked her equipment one last time. She wore the uniform of a palace security officer, altered to hide her human features. A voice came through her earpiece. "Team 1 in position," Sophia reported. "Palace security systems accessed." "Team 2 ready," another voice added. "Transport standing by at the east exit." Elizabeth tapped her earpiece once to acknowledge. She opened a case containing specialized equipment, neural disruptors designed to work on Vex biology, a holographic disguise matrix, and a data spike that would temporarily disable the palace's security grid. A soft alarm chimed on her wrist device. "Emperor arriving in 30 minutes, her device reported. "All security personnel to positions." Elizabeth slipped into the busy corridor, moving with purpose among the Vex security staff. No one questioned her. The palace employed thousands of people, and security had been increased for the event. New faces were expected. She made her way to a maintenance access panel near the Grand Hall. As she worked, Elizabeth thought about Adam. His smile, his voice when he called her on secure channels, the pride in his eyes when he told her about his high scores at the academy. "This is for you," she whispered as she connected the data spike to the panel. In the security control room, a Vex officer noticed a small anomaly on his screen. "Sir," he called to his superior, "I'm seeing an unusual power fluctuation in Section 7. The chief of security looked over. "Probably just the extra load from the celebration. Run a diagnostic." "Yes, sir." The officer began the diagnostic program, not noticing the subtle code infiltrating the system. Back in the Grand Hall, a fanfare of alien instruments announced the Emperor's arrival. The Vex monarch entered, flanked by his personal guard. He was taller than other Vex, with skin so pale it was almost white. All 4 of his arms were covered in ancient tattoos showing his royal lineage. Everyone bowed as the Emperor passed. Prince Zorn felt his heart's race as the monarch approached his family. "High Admiral Vec," the Emperor said. "Your service to the Empire continues to impress me." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Vec replied, bowing deeper. "May I present my son, Prince Zorn, now serving on the Imperial warship Dominance." The Emperor turned his gaze to Zorn. "Ah yes, I hear good things about your performance." Zorn bowed. "I live to serve the Empire, Your Majesty." The Emperor seemed pleased. He moved on to greet other nobles, leaving Zorn glowing with pride. His father squeezed his shoulder with one of his 4 hands. "Well done," Vec whispered. Across the room, Elizabeth watched from her position along the wall. She saw the exchange between Zorn and the Emperor. She checked her wrist device. 5 minutes until the data spike activated. The Grand Hall continued to buzz with conversation. The Emperor took his place on a raised platform. Servants brought exotic foods and drinks. Music played softly in the background. No one noticed when Elizabeth slipped away from her post and moved closer to where Prince Zorn stood with a group of young officers, laughing and drinking. In the security control room, screen suddenly went black. "What's happening?" the chief shouted. "All systems down," an officer replied, frantically working controls that didn't respond. "Backup power not engaging." Alert the Emperor's Guard, the chief ordered. But the communications were dead too. Indeed, the Grand Hall. The lights went out. The music stopped. For a moment, everyone froze in confusion. Then the Emperor's Guard formed a protective circle around their monarch, weapons drawn. Remain calm, a voice called out. Security protocols are in effect. Systems will restore shortly. In the darkness, Elizabeth moved with practiced precision. She activated her neural disruptor and pressed it against Prince Zorn's neck. He collapsed instantly, unconscious but alive. With her other hand, she triggered the holographic disguise matrix. To anyone watching, it appeared that Prince Zorn had suddenly felt ill and was being helped out by two security officers. In reality, those officers were Elizabeth and a member of Team 1 in disguise, carrying the unconscious prince between them. They moved quickly through the confused crowd toward a side exit. No one stopped them. Without security systems, the palace staff relied on visual identification, and the holographic disguises fooled them completely. 7 minutes after the blackout began, power returned to the palace. Security officers rushed to check on important guests. The Emperor was safe. Systems came back online one by one. It took 20 minutes for anyone to realize Prince Zorn was missing. By then, Elizabeth's team was already beyond the palace perimeter. Prince Zorn secured in a hidden compartment of their transport vehicle. They moved through the capital city, blending with the heavy evening traffic. Phase 1 complete, Elizabeth said into her communications device as their vehicle joined a stream of cargo transports leaving the city. 3 days later, in a small room on Elizabeth's hidden ship, Prince Zorn woke up. His head hurt. His mouth was dry. He tried to move but found his forearms secured to a chair. He looked around in confusion and fear. The room was plain. Metal walls, no windows, a single door, a camera in one corner. And facing him, a human woman sat in a chair. "Who are you?" Zorn demanded, trying to sound brave. "Do you know who I am? Release me immediately." "I know exactly who you are, Prince Zorn," Elizabeth said calmly. "Son of High Admiral Vec, recent, graduate of the Galactic Academy, officer on the Imperial warship Dominance." She paused. "And the one who killed my son." Zorn stared at her, not understanding at first. Then his eyes widened with recognition and fear. You're that human boy's mother," he whispered. "Adam," Elizabeth said. His name was Adam Clark. "It was an accident," Zorn said quickly. "A malfunction in the lab." "Don't lie to me," Elizabeth cut him off. Her voice remained calm, which somehow made it more frightening. "I have the security recordings. I have witness statements. I have the maintenance log showing how the safety systems were deliberately disabled." Zorn went silent, his gray skin turning pale. "The Vex Empire is searching for you," Elizabeth continued. "They've doubled security everywhere. Your father has dispatched ships to find you." She leaned forward. "They won't." "What do you want?" Zorn asked, his voice shaking. Elizabeth stood up and walked to a control panel on the wall. "I want the galaxy to know the truth." She pressed a button, and a red light on the camera began blinking. "Tell them what really happened to Adam Clark." I can't," Zorn said. Your father isn't here," Elizabeth said, "but I am. And I'm giving you one chance to tell the truth. After that?" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Prince Zorn looked into Elizabeth's eyes and saw something that terrified him more than any threat. Absolute, unwavering resolve. He realized this human would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. He began to talk. Throughout Vex space, on every planet, moon, and space station under Imperial control, the regular broadcast suddenly stopped. The screens went black for a moment. Then Prince Zorn's face appeared. "My name is Prince Zorn," he began, his voice trembling. "And I am responsible for the death of Adam Clark, a human student at the Galactic Academy." High Admiral Vec stormed into the Emperor's private chamber, his four hands clenched into fists. Guards moved to stop him, but the Emperor waved them away. "Your Majesty," Vec said, his voice tight with rage. "Have you seen the broadcast?" The Emperor's face showed no emotion. I have. Your son has confessed to murder. It was forced, Vec shouted. He is clearly a prisoner. This human female, this General Clark, she kidnapped him. She made him say those things. Perhaps, the Emperor said. But were they true? Vec froze, unable to answer immediately. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. Did your son kill that human boy? The Emperor asked again. It was a minor incident, Vec finally said. The human was just a student from a primitive world, not worth your Majesty's concern. The Emperor stood slowly. Though old, he was still imposing. A minor incident? This minor incident has now caused the greatest embarrassment to the Empire in centuries. A Vex prince, captured from my own palace. Security systems disabled. And now this confession, broadcast to every world in the Empire. We will find this human woman, Vec promised. We will destroy her and anyone who helped her. You've had 3 days, the Emperor said coldly. My best intelligence agents report multiple attacks on our outposts over the past 6 months. Ships vanishing, weapons stolen, all connected to this human general. He walked closer to Vec. 1. Human has made fools of us all. Vec bowed his head. What are your orders, Your Majesty? Find your son, find this human, and make this problem disappear. The Emperor turned away. Do not fail me again. On Elizabeth's ship, hidden in an asteroid field far from Vex space, Sophia Allen watched as the last of Zorn's confession was recorded. The prince sat slumped in his chair, exhausted from telling the full story of how he had planned Adam's death and arranged the cover-up. What now? Sophia asked as Elizabeth entered the room. Now we move to Phase 2, Elizabeth replied. She looked at the unconscious Zorn. Put him in the holding cell. We're not finished with him yet. Sophia nodded. The broadcast has caused chaos throughout the Empire. Their communication channels are filled with confusion. Some minor species are already protesting in the outer colonies. Good, Elizabeth said. Division makes them weaker. She walked to the ship's command center where star maps covered the walls. Are our teams in position? Yes, Sophia confirmed. Ready to strike these targets on your command. She pointed to 5 locations marked on the map. Elizabeth studied the map. Begin with this one, she said, pointing to a space station orbiting a moon. The Imperial Navy's communication hub. Without it, their fleets can't coordinate. Sophia looked concerned. The station has a crew of 3,000. Not all of them are combatants. I know, Elizabeth said. Her face showed no emotion. Give them 30 minutes to evacuate non-essential personnel before we strike. That's more warning than they gave Adam. As Sophia left to deliver the orders, Elizabeth sat alone in the command center. She opened her personal tablet and touched a photo of Adam. His smiling face appeared, taken on his last visit home before leaving for the academy. The galaxy will remember your name, she whispered. 3 days later, the Imperial Navy's communication hub erupted in flames. Though many had evacuated, hundreds were still aboard when the station's reactor core mysteriously overloaded. Vex ships rushed to rescue survivors, only to find the station's computer systems had been erased. No one could explain how it happened. 1 week after that, the Empire's largest weapons development facility went dark. When investigators arrived, they found all research data deleted and prototype weapons missing. The facility's security recordings showed only empty hallways, as if ghosts had done the work. On the Vex homeworld, the Emperor summoned his high command. 20 of the most powerful Vex in the galaxy gathered in a secure bunker deep beneath the Imperial Palace. This cannot continue, the Emperor declared. One human woman is systematically dismantling our military infrastructure. Our people are beginning to question our power. High Admiral Vec, now leading the effort to find Elizabeth Clark, stood to address the group. We've identified her pattern. She targets facilities connected to our military command structure. She has help, likely from her own government. The Earth government denies any involvement, another admiral noted. They claim she's gone rogue. Of course they would say that, Vec replied. But she's using advanced human stealth technology and tactics. She must have support. The Emperor raised a hand for silence. Whether she acts alone or with Earth's secret blessing doesn't matter. What matters is stopping her before more damage is done. He turned to Vec. What do you propose? Vec activated a holographic display showing the Sol System, humanity's home. We send the Third Imperial Fleet to Earth, a show of force. We demand they help us capture Clark or face the consequences. The Bao Emperor considered this. The humans are a minor species, but their military is not weak. A direct confrontation could be costly. They won't risk war with the Empire, Vec insisted. Not for one rogue general. After debate, the Emperor agreed. Orders went out to the Third Imperial Fleet, 20 massive warships with enough firepower to reduce Earth's cities to ash. They departed the next day. What the Vex didn't know was that Elizabeth had anticipated this move. As the fleet traveled through hyperspace, tiny devices previously planted by her teams activated inside crucial ship systems. Not enough to disable the vessels, but enough to make them vulnerable. Acting Commander Samuel Wright was in his office, on Aegis Station, when the alert came through. A Vex fleet was approaching Earth's solar system. He immediately called an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. They're demanding we surrender General Clark to them, Samuel explained, to the assembled military leaders. They believe she's responsible for attacks throughout their territory. Is she? Admiral Ben Lawson, head of Earth's Defense Forces, asked. Samuel hesitated. We have evidence suggesting she's operating independently with stolen resources, but we have no direct proof of her involvement in these attacks. Whether she did it or not, Admiral Lawson said, we can't hand over a human general to the Vex. It would make us look weak. The Defense Council agreed. They would not comply with the Vex demands, but they would offer to help investigate. Earth's defense grid went to full alert as the Third Imperial Fleet approached. High Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Invincible, as it exited hyperspace near Earth. He smiled at the sight of the blue planet. Send the message, he ordered. Tell them they have 24 hours to surrender General Clark to us, or we will take action. His communications officer tried to comply but frowned. Sir, our long-range communications are malfunctioning. What? Vec demanded. And engineering reports problems with weapons targeting systems, another officer added. Several ships in the fleet are reporting similar issues. Vec realized with horror what had happened. It's her. She sabotaged our ships. He turned to his second-in-command. How bad is it? We can still fight, the officer replied. But not at full capacity. Vec looked at Earth's defense grid, fully activated and ready for battle. What should have been a show of force had become a dangerous gamble. If he attacked now, his fleet might not survive. Pull back, he ordered reluctantly. Maintain position outside their defense perimeter while we assess the damage. As the Third Imperial Fleet retreated to a safe distance, a small unmarked ship slipped away from it. Inside, Elizabeth Clark removed her Vex disguise. She had been aboard the flagship for 3 days, gathering intelligence and finalizing her sabotage. Phase 2 complete, she said into her communication device. Begin Phase 3. That night, in his private chambers in the Imperial Palace, the Vex Emperor woke to find a human woman sitting calmly in a chair next to his bed. His guards didn't answer when he called. They're alive, Elizabeth said. Just unconscious. The Emperor reached for a hidden weapon, but Elizabeth was faster. She pointed a small device at him. I could kill you right now, she said. But that's not why I'm here. What do you want? The Emperor asked, trying to maintain his dignity. Elizabeth placed a data chip on his bedside table. This contains evidence of every crime your empire has committed against minor species over the past century. Every genocide, every stolen world, every suppressed technology. The Emperor stared at the chip, then at Elizabeth. You expect me to what? Apologize? Change? Policies that have kept the Empire strong for millennia? No, Elizabeth said, standing up. I expect you to watch as your empire falls apart. The data on that chip will be released to every world in the galaxy tomorrow. She walked to the door. This was never just about my son. This was about justice for all the species your people have crushed. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. I was in your throne room 3 days ago. I was on your flagship yesterday. I'm in your bedroom now. Nowhere in your empire is safe from me. When the Emperor's guards woke an hour later, they found their monarch still staring at the small data chip, fear on his face for the first time in his long rule. The data spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every planet, every space station, every ship received the same files. They showed centuries of Vex crimes against other species, secret wars, stolen technologies, entire civilizations wiped out and replaced with Vex colonies. On worlds ruled by the Vex, the minor species saw the truth for the first time. The Navori on their blue homeworld, the scaled Draxians in their underground cities, the crystalline Vril in their mountain fortresses. All of them had believed they were alone in their suffering. Now they knew different. Elizabeth Clark watched from her ship as reports came in from across Vex space. Riots on 20 worlds, rebellions on 30 more. The Vex military tried to maintain control, but they were spread too thin. Too many fires to put out at once. It's working, Sophia said, looking at the streams of data. The Empire is losing control. Elizabeth nodded. And we're not finished yet. On the Vex homeworld, the Emperor called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. Representatives from all major Vex families attended, including High Admiral Vec. This human has released classified information across the galaxy, the Emperor said. She has turned our own subjects against us. Most of these records are ancient history, a counselor argued. Things that happened generations ago. To humans, perhaps, another counselor replied. But many species have longer memories than humans. The Vril live for 1,000 years. To them, our conquest of their outer colonies is recent history. High Admiral Vec slammed one of his 4 hands on the table. We must strike back, send the fleet to Earth and demand they give us this human terrorist. The Emperor looked tired. The Third Fleet is still being repaired after the sabotage, and sending more ships would leave our worlds undefended while rebellion spreads. He shook his head. No, we need a different approach. What do you suggest, Your Majesty? A counselor asked. Before the Emperor could answer, the chamber's doors opened. A Vex officer rushed in, his gray skin pale with fear. Your Majesty, he said, bowing quickly. We've lost contact with the outer defense grid. What? The Emperor demanded. All 50 orbital defense stations, the officer explained. They've gone dark, and we're getting reports of unidentified ships entering the system. Panic spread through the council chamber. The Vex homeworld had never been attacked. Its defenses were thought to be perfect. How many ships? Vec asked. Just 5 that we can detect, the officer replied. But our sensors are being jammed. 5 ships? A counselor laughed nervously. That's not an invasion force. No, the Emperor said quietly. It's her. Far above the Vex homeworld, Elizabeth's small fleet of stolen stealth ships moved into position. Each carried weapons taken from Vex arsenals over the past months. Elizabeth stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching as her plan reached its final stage. All ships in position, Sophia reported. Defense grid is down. Surface communications disrupted. And Prince Zorn? Elizabeth asked. Ready for broadcast. Elizabeth nodded. Begin transmission. On the Vex homeworld and across the Empire, screens lit up with Prince Zorn's face again. But this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood dozens of other Vex, military officers, government officials, scientists, all people who had helped cover up crimes against other species. People of the galaxy, Zorn began, his voice stronger now, as if he had found some courage. What you've seen in the data files is true. The Vex Empire has committed terrible acts against other species. I know, because I was part of it. He paused. But it doesn't have to continue. We can build a different future, one where all species have rights, where no one is called minor or primitive because of where they come from. In the Imperial Council chamber, the Emperor and his counselors watched in shock. What is this trick? Vec demanded. On screen, Zorn continued. I speak now to my own people. The rebellions across our worlds will only grow. We can fight endless wars to keep control, or we can change. The human who captured me could have killed me. She had every right to after what I did to her son. But instead, she showed me the truth. He looked directly at the camera. Father, Emperor, counselors, surrender now, agree to reform, or watch the empire fall. The transmission ended. The chamber was silent. Then alarms blared throughout the palace. The officer who had delivered the news about the defense grid returned, even more panicked. Your Majesty, rebel ships are landing in the capital city, and they're being welcomed by civilians. Outside the palace walls, Elizabeth's teams moved through the streets of the Vex capital. With them came representatives from a dozen minor species, all armed, all determined. Surprisingly, many Vex civilians joined them. The two armed Vex who had been treated as lesser, the scientists who had been forced to work on weapons, the ordinary people who had never benefited from the Empire's conquests. In orbit, Elizabeth's ships held position, weapons trained on the palace. She had spent 6 months planning this moment, gathering allies, building her forces. Now she sent one final message to the Emperor. Your defense grid is disabled. Your military leadership is in confusion. Your people are turning against you. Surrender and agree to reform, or we will remove you by force. In the council chamber, the Emperor looked at the faces of his advisors. Some wanted to fight. Others saw the truth. The Empire, as they knew it, was already falling. Your Majesty, an old counselor said quietly, perhaps it is time for change. After long debate, the Emperor made his decision. He would meet with the human general and the representatives of the rebellious species. He would negotiate new terms for the galaxy. 3 days later, in the Great Hall where the celebration had been held months ago, a historic meeting took place. The Emperor sat on one side with his remaining loyal counselors. Across from him sat Elizabeth Clark, Princess Kira of the Navori, Chief Zax of the Draxians, Elder Crystal of the Vril, and representatives from 24 other species, including several reformed Vex led by Prince Zorn. We propose the formation of a galactic concordat, Elizabeth said, an alliance of equals. No more minor species, no more conquests. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked, though he knew the answer. Then, your rule ends today, Elizabeth replied simply. The choice is yours. With reluctance, the Emperor agreed to the terms. The Vex would remain one of the powerful species in the galaxy, but they would no longer rule over others. Worlds that wanted independence would receive it. Those that wished to remain in a modified empire could do so with new rights and protections. 1 month later, Elizabeth Clark stood alone in a garden on Earth. It was spring and flowers bloomed around a small memorial stone. The stone read, Adam Clark. His death brought freedom to the stars. A soft voice spoke behind her. General Clark. Elizabeth turned to see Kira, the young Navori who had been Adam's friend at the academy. Now she was Princess Kira, representative of her people in the new Galactic Concordat. Just Elizabeth now, she replied. I've resigned my commission. Kira stepped forward to look at the memorial stone. I miss him. He was kind to me when others were not. Tell me about him, Elizabeth said. At the academy, I want to hear everything. As they walked through the garden, Kira shared stories of Adam, his kindness, his intelligence, his courage in standing up to bullies like Zorn. Elizabeth listened, smiling through tears. He would be proud of what you've done, Kira said finally. You've changed the galaxy. Elizabeth shook her head. It wasn't just me. It was everyone who helped. Humans, Navori, even reformed Vex like Zorn. And it was Adam. His death showed me how wrong things were, not just for humans, but for all of us. What will you do now? Kira asked. Elizabeth looked up at the blue sky, knowing that beyond it lay a galaxy transformed. I'll help build what we've started. The Concordat will need people who understand both military and diplomatic realities. She touched the memorial stone gently. "And I'll make sure no mother ever has to do what I did to get justice for her child." As they left the garden, a message arrived for Elizabeth. The first ships from the Vril homeworld had arrived for the official signing of the Concordat Charter. Representatives from 50 worlds would attend the ceremony. "They're waiting for us," Elizabeth said. Together they walked toward the future that Adam's death had made possible, a galaxy where all species stood as equals under the same stars.